Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to the Credit Plug channel where we talk about how to build credit, how to establish relationships with banks and financial institutions, and how to get you access to high limit credit funding. So for today's video, I'm actually doing a video that I did a long time ago when I first started this channel. So I'm just sort of reiterating some of the same points. And this is a particular strategy that you could utilize where you're basically getting your foot in the door with particular store cards. And then over the course of time, as you build up a relationship and as your credit improves, those store cards can then graduate or transition to either a MasterCard or a Visa card. And there's a handful of different store cards that you can get that actually do transition. Now, there are some where, and I'm not going to go over those, but essentially where they will give you an invite for, let's say, if you have the store card already, they'll give you an invite for the Visa or Mastercard, but it's a new account. So that's you'd actually lose all the history. But anyways, there's a handful of cards. So I'm gonna go through about five or so where you could basically get your foot in the door. And remember, this is more of a long-term strategy, so it's not going to be something where you just jump straight to the Visa or Mastercard. But let's say if you have a low credit score, poor or fair credit, there's a handful of cards that you could get your foot in the door. So number one, I've done a video on this before, and that's the Target Red card. It's a pretty good card. Targets are all over the country. You get 5% back on all your purchases, and then they will give you credit limit increases fairly frequently. So the Target Red card's underwritten by TD Bank, and once you reach the $5,000 threshold, that's generally when the MasterCard conversion will be triggered. And for some of you who don't know, I'm not sure to the extent of MasterCard, but I know with Visa Signature, Visa Signature is usually like a minimum limit of $5,000. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. But anyways, the Target Red card will transition to a Target MasterCard, which then you can use it outside of Target. So that's one. The second one I want to talk about is the Nordstrom store card, another store issued card that's underwritten by TD Bank. And so the Nordstrom store card, just in the same way, will transition to a Nordstrom's Visa, which then you could use outside of Nordstrom, so you could use it anywhere Visa is accepted. And then the next one I want to go over is so this can happen in a couple different ways. So there's the Old Navy Visa card that can transition, the Gap Visa or store card, and then Banana Republic. So all of those stores are actually owned by the same entity. So I'm not sure to the extent, like, they all do have their separate store cards, but I'm not 100% sure that you can graduate to a Visa card with all of them. I know for the Gap card, that does transition. There's data points that suggest that the Old Navy does transition as well as the Banana Republic. However, I haven't had the data points on if you've already have like let's say an Old Navy Visa that transition, if you could also get a Banana Republic card that transitions. But those three cards are within the same umbrella of companies. So I would suggest if you want to start with any of them, you probably would want to go with either the Gap or the Old Navy to begin with. And I'd have to double check, but to see if this store card you could use, like if you could use an Old Navy store card at Banana Republic, and vice versa. But those are all under the same umbrella company. So I'll double check that for you. But yeah, those three basically kind of the same company. You start off with the store card, you can transition to the regular Visa card. And then the next one I want to go over is the TJ Maxx store card. That's another one. I think you could also use it at Home Goods as well. That one can transition to a TJ Maxx. I believe it's the MasterCard. So that's another one. And then the last one I wanted to go over was the American Eagle store card. Now I know it's they don't have the same footprint as they used to because they've sort of been I guess a casualty of the retail apocalypse, but they definitely do transition to a regular Visa card after a certain period of time. So just to recap, we have the Target Red card that transitions to the Target MasterCard. We have the Nordstrom store card that transitions to the Nordstrom's Visa. We have the Old Navy store card that transitions to the Old Navy Visa, or you could also, get the Gap store card that'll transition to, to the Gap Visa. And then you also have the TJ Maxx store card that transitions to the TJ Maxx MasterCard. And then you have American Eagle store card that will transition to the American Eagle Visa credit card. So definitely a strategy you can use to get your foot in the door. Start off with those store cards, and honestly, you'd want to be sort of strategic with it, because if it's a store that you wouldn't normally shop at, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you get it. But if you shop at Gap, or you shop at Banana Republic, or you shop at Nordstrom's or Target or TJ Maxx or Home Goods or one of those types of stores, then it would definitely make sense. Again, this process from transitioning from store card to Visa MasterCard, can take in some cases up to 2 years, for that to happen. So if you are interested in doing this path, just understand that it's kind of a long-term strategy, where if you're rebuilding and you can get approved for one of these store cards, just use it as you normally would, for the things that you need, and then over time, you could eventually get to one of the Visa or MasterCards. And remember, the store card, you could apply for the Visa and MasterCard off break, but it's going to have much higher underwriting criteria compared to the store card. So, my philosophy is always to do the path of least resistance, and then just work your way, build your relationship up, and then certain things will start to unlock. So that's all I wanted to share for this video. If you're interested in how to build primary accounts, you can email me, info@creditplug.com.